My wife was hooking up with her personal trainer while I was away on business. I found out everything by checking the security cameras. Here is my story. When I got home that Thursday night, after a whole week away on business, I found my wife waiting for me in the living room with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. She stood up from the couch quickly, hugged me a little too tightly, and started talking way too fast about how much she had missed me. Something was wrong. 6 months of marriage had taught me to recognize her genuine gestures, and that wasn't genuine. It was guilt. She served my favorite dinner, agreed with everything I suggested we watch on TV, and when we went to bed, she was more affectionate than she had been in weeks. I took it all in calmly, returned her affection, but my mind was already at work. The next day, Friday, I waited for her to leave for work. I went straight to my home office and accessed the hidden security cameras I had installed months ago, right after we moved in. They weren't meant to spy on her. They were for our protection, in case of a break-in. Or at least, that's what I thought until that moment. My name is Ryan. I'm 31 years old, and I work as a sales manager at a tech company. I travel a lot. Sometimes I'm gone for a whole week closing deals in other cities. I met Melissa 2 years ago at a corporate event. She worked in the marketing department of one of our clients. It was intense from the start. She was beautiful, outgoing, always surrounded by people, and somehow she chose to be with me. We got engaged after 8 months and married 6 months later. Everything seemed perfect. We bought our house, decorated it together, and planned to have kids soon. She was always dedicated to her fitness, waking up early to train and following strict diets. 3 months ago, she hired a personal trainer. She said she wanted faster results, that training alone wasn't working. His name was Derek. I met him once when he stopped by to pick up something she had forgotten at the gym. Young, muscular, with that smile of someone who thinks they're irresistible. I didn't like him immediately, but I trusted her. What a mistake. The camera recordings were stored in the cloud for 30 days. I started watching backwards from the day before. Within the first hour of footage from that Thursday, the day before I returned, I saw his car pulling up in front of the house at 2 in the afternoon. Melissa opened the door wearing only a robe. They kissed right there in the entryway. I felt my stomach turn, but I kept watching. I needed to know the extent of it. They went inside and headed straight for our bedroom. The hallway camera caught them closing the door. He didn't leave until 3 hours later. I went back further. Wednesday, same thing. Tuesday, he arrived earlier, at 11 in the morning. Monday was a holiday. He spent the whole day there. The previous weekend I was home, so nothing happened. The week before that, every single day I was traveling, he was there. These were planned, routine meetings. She had a schedule for her affair. I watched it all with a calmness that surprised me. I didn't break anything, didn't scream alone in my office. I just saved everything, backed it up in 3 different places, and started planning. That Friday, I acted completely normal. I went to work, came back at my usual time. We had dinner together and talked about our week. She continued to be excessively attentive. On Saturday, I suggested we go out for dinner at a restaurant she loved. She was beaming. During dinner, I asked how the sessions with the trainer were going. She spoke about him naturally, said she was seeing results, that he was very professional. I smiled and agreed. I told her she really did look more beautiful. She took my hand across the table and said she loved me. I said I loved her too. It wasn't true anymore, but she didn't need to know that yet. On Sunday, while she was at the supermarket, I called a lawyer a colleague had recommended years ago for a contract issue. I scheduled a meeting for Monday morning. I said it was urgent. He squeezed me in at 8 o'clock. Monday, I left early saying I had a meeting. I went straight to the lawyer's office. Mr. Henderson was a man in his early 50s, gray hair, reading glasses hanging around his neck. He listened to my situation carefully, watched a few clips of the recordings I brought on a flash drive, and took notes. He asked if I was sure I wanted a divorce. I confirmed. He asked if we had joint assets. I explained that the house was in my name. I bought it before we got married, but we did renovations with money from both of us. We had a joint account where we deposited part of our salaries for household expenses, but I kept my main account separate. He said that worked in my favor. He asked about debts. I explained we had financed a car in her name, but I was the co-signer and paid half the installments. He wrote everything down. He said he would prepare the divorce papers and that I should gather all possible documentation regarding our assets and accounts. He also suggested I separate my finances completely before confronting her. That was exactly what I planned to do. I left his office and went straight to the bank. I removed my name from the joint account. Since it was an account where both of us could make transactions independently, I didn't need her authorization. I left only $500 in there and withdrew the rest, about $7,000. I transferred it to my personal account. Then I called the issuer of the credit card where she was an authorized user on my account. I canceled it. Next, I went to the dealership where we had bought her car. I explained to the manager that I needed to get off the loan. He said it would be necessary to refinance it solely in her name or pay it off. I offered to pay off my share immediately if she assumed the rest. He said he would need her signature. I made a note that I would come back with her. I wouldn't, but he didn't need to know that. I spent the rest of the day organizing documents, bank statements, mortgage payments, renovation receipts, receipts for everything we had bought together. I created detailed spreadsheets. When I got home that night, Melissa was irritated. She had tried to use the credit card to buy clothes online and it was declined. She asked what had happened. I said it must be a system error, that I would check the next day. She didn't seem to suspect anything. Tuesday, Mr. Henderson called me. The divorce papers were ready. We arranged for me to stop by in the late afternoon. I spent the day at work trying to maintain normalcy, but it was hard to concentrate. My mind was split between closing an important contract and planning every step of what was coming. At 5 o'clock, I left and went to his office. I reviewed every clause. I was claiming the house, stating it was mine before the marriage, offering to compensate her for the renovations at a fair value. I asked for a proportional division of what was in the joint account at the moment of filing, which would be practically nothing since I had withdrawn almost everything. As for the car, I would give up my share of the payments if she assumed total responsibility. I signed everything. Mr. Henderson said he would have her served that week. I asked him to wait until Friday. I wanted to do something first. That night, during dinner, Melissa mentioned that the personal trainer was coming Thursday morning for a physical assessment at the house. She said he had some new equipment to measure something or other. I smiled and said it was no problem, that I would be working anyway. She seemed relieved. Little did she know I had taken Thursday off and wouldn't be telling her. On Wednesday, I confirmed my plan. I bought a small extra action camera and positioned it in the bedroom at an angle the other cameras didn't catch well. I wanted high-quality footage. I left everything ready. On Thursday morning, I left the house normally, as if I were going to work. I went to a coffee shop 3 blocks away and waited. At 9:30, I received a notification on my phone that the entryway camera had detected motion. I opened the app. It was him, arriving right on time. I saw Melissa opening the door, the long hug, the kiss. She was in workout clothes, but I knew they wouldn't stay on for long. I closed the app. I didn't need to watch live. The recordings would be there. I waited until noon and went back to the house. When I opened the door, I heard voices coming from the living room. Not the bedroom, the living room. I walked silently. They were on the couch, her sitting on his lap, still dressed but clearly in an intimate moment. That was when I stepped on a floorboard that creaked. They pulled apart quickly. Melissa turned white. Derek stood up, trying to look casual, saying something about helping her with stretching. I just looked at the two of them. I didn't yell, I didn't lunge at them. I just said, with the calmest voice I could manage, that he had exactly 1 minute to get out of my house or I would call the police. He tried to say something, but I repeated it. 50 seconds. He looked at Melissa, who said nothing. She was paralyzed. He grabbed his backpack and left. I closed the door behind him and turned to her. Melissa started crying immediately, saying she could explain, that it wasn't what I was thinking. I raised my hand asking for silence. I said I didn't want to hear it. I went to the office, grabbed my laptop, went back to the living room, and placed it on the coffee table. I opened a folder with the recordings of every time he had been there. I turned the screen toward her. I pressed play. She crumbled. She fell to her knees, sobbing, apologizing, saying it had been a mistake, that she loved me, that it would never happen again. I let the video play for a few minutes. Then I closed the laptop and said only that the divorce papers would arrive in the next few days and that she should find a lawyer. I left the house and went to a hotel. I messaged my boss explaining I had a personal emergency and would need a few days. He told me not to worry. I spent the rest of that Thursday and all of Friday at the hotel, organizing everything. I told my parents. They were shocked and offered total support. My mother cried on the phone. My father said I could count on them for whatever I needed. I told my younger brother, who was furious and wanted to go confront Melissa. I asked him not to do that, to let the justice system handle it. On Friday afternoon, Mr. Henderson confirmed that Melissa had been served. She called my cell phone dozens of times. She sent miles of text messages asking for a chance to talk, promising she would end everything with Derek, that she would go to therapy, anything. I didn't answer any of them. On Saturday, I decided to do something I knew would hurt her where it hurt most, her public image. Melissa had always been obsessed with social media, the perfect Instagram, photos of a happy couple, daily stories of our wonderful life, hundreds of followers who admired our relationship. I rarely posted, but I had an active account. I prepared a careful post, a photo of us from the wedding where we were smiling, seemingly happy. In the caption, I wrote something simple and direct. I discovered this week that my marriage of 6 months was a lie. While I was traveling for business, my wife was cheating on me in our home, in our bed, with her personal trainer. I have video proof of multiple occasions. I am sharing this not out of revenge, but because I believe in honesty. For those who sent me messages saying we were the perfect couple, now you know the truth. I am fine, moving on, and I learned a valuable lesson about trusting too much too soon. I posted it and turned off my phone. When I turned it on again, hours later, I had hundreds of notifications. Comments of support, private messages from shocked friends, shares. The post had gone viral within our social circles. Melissa called me desperate, crying hysterically, saying I had destroyed her, that everyone was talking, that even her family had seen it. I said calmly that she had destroyed herself with her choices, and hung up. In the following days, the consequences unfolded. Melissa's mother called me, asking me to reconsider the divorce, saying her daughter had made a mistake but that she loved me. I thanked her for the call but said my decision was made. Her father was more direct. He said he was disgusted by what his daughter had done and that he would support me in whatever I needed. He commented that he always thought the marriage had been too fast. Some mutual friends tried to mediate, suggesting couples therapy. I politely refused. There was no therapy that could fix what was broken. At the company where Melissa worked, the story spread. A colleague of hers, whom I knew vaguely, messaged me saying that many people there already suspected something between Melissa and Derek, that they exchanged looks at events where both were present, but no one was sure. Now they were. As for Derek, I found out through third parties that he lost several clients after the story became public. Apparently, married women didn't want a personal trainer with a reputation for getting involved with clients anymore. I didn't feel sorry at all. The divorce process officially began. Melissa hired a lawyer who tried to argue that she was entitled to half of everything, including the house. Mr. Henderson presented all the documentation proving the house was mine before the marriage, showed the proportional contributions each of us made to the renovations, and presented the recordings of the infidelity as proof of breach of the matrimonial contract. Her lawyer tried to argue that the recordings were illegal, but Mr. Henderson countered, saying they were security cameras installed on my private property for protection purposes, and that I had every right to access the footage. Furthermore, in our jurisdiction, recordings made by a spouse can be used as evidence in divorce proceedings. The first hearing was tense. Melissa arrived with swollen eyes, accompanied by her mother. I arrived alone, calm. The judge heard both sides. Melissa wept, said she regretted it, that it was a difficult phase, that she wanted a chance. I kept my composure, presented facts, evidence, dates. The judge analyzed everything and asked specific questions. In the end, he gave a deadline for both lawyers to present additional documentation and scheduled a new hearing for a month later. During that month, I tried to rebuild some normalcy in my life. I stayed at the hotel for 2 weeks, then rented a small apartment near work. Melissa had to leave the house and moved back in with her parents. I put the house up for sale. I didn't want to live there anymore. Every room had memories I wanted to erase. I dove into work. I closed important contracts, received praise from the director, and a promotion was even mentioned. Physically, I started going to a gym, ironically. I needed to burn off energy, clear my head. I made friends with the crew there, people who didn't know my story, who just saw me as Ryan, the guy who showed up every day at 6 in the morning to train hard. I stopped following Melissa on all social media. I blocked her profiles. I needed mental distance too. I heard from third parties that she deleted her Instagram account. She couldn't handle the comments and the public judgment. Part of me felt a twinge of guilt for exposing her like that. But the bigger part remembered the recordings, the kisses, the hours they spent in my bed, and the guilt evaporated. The second hearing arrived. This time, the judge had analyzed all the documentation. He spoke for 15 minutes about the division of assets, about case law, about marital contracts. In the end, he decided that the house would stay with me, but that I should pay Melissa an amount equivalent to 40% of the renovations done, considering she contributed part of the money. It was fair. As for the car, since the loan was in her name and I was just the co-signer, she would assume total responsibility, but I would be released as co-signer upon payoff or refinancing. The joint account would be divided proportionately to what was in it at the time of the official separation, meaning almost nothing. She would receive less than $150. Her lawyer tried to contest, saying I had emptied the account before notifying about the divorce. Mr. Henderson replied that I had every right to move my own money, and that there was no law preventing me from withdrawing funds from an account where my name was listed as an owner. The judge agreed. Sentence pronounced. Divorce granted within 60 days upon fulfillment of financial obligations. I left that hearing feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. It was officially over. Melissa tried to talk to me in the courthouse hallway, but Mr. Henderson stepped between us and asked that she communicate only through her lawyer. She stood there, watching as I walked away. In her eyes, I saw something that wasn't love anymore, nor apology. It was resentment. She was upset about losing, not about betraying me, but about facing consequences. That confirmed to me that I had made the right choice. In the following days, I arranged the transfer of the amount I owed her for the renovations. As soon as the receipt was sent to her lawyer, the papers were signed and the divorce was finalized. Less than 3 months since I discovered the cheating, I was legally free. The house was sold a month later. I got a good price, enough for a down payment on a larger, more modern apartment in a neighborhood I always wanted to live in. A place with no history, no bad memories. I decorated it from scratch, chose every piece of furniture thinking only of what I wanted. It turned out masculine, functional, comfortable. My space. For the first time in years, I felt I had total control over my life. At work, the promotion happened. I took over as regional manager with a significant salary increase and more responsibilities. I traveled even more, but now I didn't have anyone at home cheating on me. It was liberating. I started going out more with friends, accepting invitations to social events I used to refuse. I wasn't looking for a relationship, but I wasn't running from meeting new people either, just living. 6 months after the divorce, I heard from a mutual acquaintance that Melissa had broken up with Derek a few weeks after everything came to light. Apparently, he never had any intention of having a serious relationship with her. It was just fun. She was left alone, working at the same job but struggling to make friends after the scandal. She tried to restart on social media with a new profile, but the reach was minimal compared to what she had before. Her life had become a cycle of work, home, work. As for Derek, I heard he quit his career as a personal trainer and was selling supplements online. His destroyed reputation no longer allowed him to work in person with clients. Somehow, knowing this didn't give me satisfaction. It just made me realize that their wrong choices had consequences that went beyond our divorce. A year after everything, I was at a corporate event when I met Julia. She worked in the finance department of a business partner. We talked all night about work, travel, plans. We exchanged numbers. We started talking. It was slow, cautious on my part. She knew I was divorced but didn't know the details. The third time we went out, I told her. I waited for her to process it, prepared for her to pull away. Instead, she took my hand and said she admired how I had handled everything, that it showed character. We kept seeing each other. 3 months later, we were officially dating. No rush, no pressure. It was healthy, calm, honest, everything the previous relationship wasn't. Today, 2 years after discovering the betrayal, I am in a completely different place. I live in an apartment that is mine. I have a solid career that keeps growing. I'm dating a woman who respects me and whom I respect back. We haven't talked about marriage yet, and that's okay. I learned that I don't need to rush steps. Life has its own timing. Sometimes I think about how everything could have been different if Melissa had been honest, if she had broken up with me before cheating. We would have avoided pain, exposure, trauma. But then I remember that people make choices, and those choices define who they are. She chose betrayal. I chose dignity and transparency. In the end, everyone reaped what they sowed. Melissa tried to contact me a few times during this period. Messages on special dates, apologizing, saying she understood if I never forgave her, but that she wanted me to know she regretted it. I never replied. Not out of anger, but because there was nothing to say. That chapter was closed. I kept the recordings on an external hard drive, locked in a safe. I don't watch them, I don't need to. They are there as a record that I didn't imagine anything, that I made decisions based on facts. Every now and then, when I doubt myself, when I ask myself if I did the right thing, I open the drawer and see the safe there. I remember what I saw, what I felt, and I confirm. I acted exactly as I should have. Moving on doesn't mean forgetting. It means learning, growing, and building something better. Today, when I look in the mirror, I see a stronger man, more aware of his limits and his values. Someone who doesn't accept less than he deserves. Someone who, even having gone through betrayal and pain, chose not to become bitter or suspicious of everyone. Chose to believe that there are still honest people, healthy relationships, true love. And maybe, just maybe, I found that with Julia. Time will tell. For now, I go on with my life, one day at a time, building a new family little by little, with patience and hope. Even if part of me still carries scars, the other part, the bigger part, believes that the best is yet to come.